Chapter 12, Marketing and Management Strategies for Managing Transitions. Your career as the owner of a dental practice will take you through many periods of transition, and each one will present its own challenges and opportunities. To manage these transitions effectively, you need to learn to recognize them when they're on the horizon and plan for them well in advance. Many dentists do not recognize the impact their decisions have on their practice. It's only later, when the dust settles, that they see the full ramifications of their choices. Now, it's actually pretty easy to recognize the early stages of a transitional situation. It usually starts with the dentist saying, I want to bring on an associate. I want to slow down a bit before I retire. I want to do more implants. Each of these wants requires specific preparation and action from a marketing and business management standpoint in order to be successful. Simply stating what you want and then standing back and waiting for it to materialize rarely works. We must prepare carefully and put an integrated marketing and management plan into action to ensure we're able to achieve the goals we set for ourselves. In this chapter, we are going to define the most common dental business transitions and uncover potential pitfalls you need to consider before creating your transition plan. We will also provide clear insights into the best way to align your marketing or business management strategies in support of attaining your objectives. We'll show you how the right marketing tools and management moves can help you successfully bring on a new associate, transition out of reliance on insurance participation, and segue out of a limiting reliance on specific dental niches. Transition number 1, bringing on a new associate. Bringing in a new associate into a dental practice is one of the most common transitions, and unfortunately, it's also one of the most mismanaged. Associate transitions typically start with the dental practice owner deciding he or she wants one or more of the following things. I want to continue to grow my practice revenues. I want someone that can cover for me so I can have a life outside the practice. I want someone who may want to buy into my practice in the future. I want someone who can take the bread and butter dentistry so I can focus on the more involved cases. All of these wants make perfect sense. If you have built a successful solo GP practice, you are entitled to take your business to the next level and bring on an associate. Here's the bad news. Just because you're entitled to do something doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy to achieve. Successful associate transitions do not happen automatically, even if your dental practice has enjoyed success up until this point. You have to prepare for this transition. In fact, statistically, most first associate transitions fail. Yet there is usually nothing wrong with the associate chosen. The owner-associate relationship fails because the owner has not planned for the associate transition adequately. Essentially, the associate walks into a situation where they are set up to fail. Here is a typical example of how most first associate transitions unfold. Number 1, the owner of the solo practice is busy. Number 2, owner wants an associate. Number 3, owner finds, interviews, hires the associate. Number 4, existing patients don't want to see the associate. Number 5, the practice doesn't get enough new patients each month to keep the associate busy. Number 6, the owner takes the majority of the new patients to protect the practice income. Number 7, the associate isn't busy enough to take home a reasonable income and is frustrated about not meeting the production goals set by the owner. Number 8, the associate leaves and blames the owner for not having enough patient flow. Number 9, the owner blames the associate for their lack of clinical ability. And round we go. Where it stops, nobody knows. We have seen owners do this 2 or 3 times before they figured out that it wasn't necessarily every associate that was to blame. Have you ever spoken to a colleague that said, I will never bring on another associate. Owners tend to speed up this merry-go-round situation by making a number of very common but very damaging mistakes. Mistake number 1, choosing an associate that is just like them. This move makes absolutely no business sense. Why wouldn't you choose an associate whose skills and interests complement yours? If you don't like molar endo, why wouldn't you choose an associate that likes molar endo? If you don't particularly enjoy working with children, why wouldn't you choose an associate that likes working with kids? If you are a male dentist that doesn't do endo, doesn't like working with children, and likes working 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. 4 days a week, why wouldn't you choose a female dentist that loves working with kids, has no problem with endo, and likes the flexibility of early morning or evening hours? Look at how much more marketable and productive this dental practice would be if the owner were to choose someone totally unlike them, but totally complementary. Mistake number 2, thinking the associate should bring in their own new patients. You are responsible for patient flow. Of course you are responsible for patient flow. It's your practice. Any patients the associate does attract to the practice are gravy, but you cannot count on any additional patient flow from the associate when you are doing the math to decide whether you can make a smooth associate transition. Some owners actually expect associates to fund or implement their own promotion. If this seems odd to you, that's good. It sure seems odd to us when an associate calls our firm to inquire about attracting patients to the practice. An associate is an employee. You don't expect your hygienist to fund their own promotion, do you? Yet you maintain the same basic employer-employee relationship with your associate. Mistake number 3, assuming existing patients will want to be treated by the new associate. Why would you assume your existing patients will be happy about basically being fobbed off on a perfect stranger? You have built up your practice based on delivering excellent personalized service to your patients. Yet you think they'll happily move on to someone else without a backward glance? The fact is, your existing patients, for the most part, are not going to be comfortable seeing your associate. Your associate is going to have to see the majority of the truly new patients to the practice if they have any shot at making a living there. Mistake number 4, underestimating the number of new patients needed to keep the associate busy. You will need a massive increase in capacity to make room for the new associate, and most owners totally underestimate the need. We're going to run some hypothetical figures to show you how far off most owners are. Practice capacity prior to associate's arrival: 18 years in practice, 5 operatories, 32 dentist hours per week, 32 hours of hygiene per week, 100 backlogged existing patients, average of 18 new patients per month. Now, let's say the owner wants an associate to work 2 8-hour days per week. It looks as though the practice will easily support this new associate, doesn't it? Look again. The average solo GP requires 19 to 22 new patients per month to support themselves. This practice is only averaging 18 new patients each month. The 2 additional days of dentist capacity represent a 50% increase in capacity. This means that, at a minimum, the practice requires 30 new patients each month, 20 for the owner and at least 10 for the associate, just to survive. This transition is statistically already in jeopardy. Even the 100 backlog patients won't save the situation. At 2 days per week and 10 patients per day, that excess capacity will be consumed in 5 weeks. And that's assuming every single one of those 100 patients is willing to be seen by the new associate, which is clearly not going to happen. Poor associate doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell. 2 to 3 months will go by. The owner will start hoarding the new patients just to maintain their own earning level, and the associate will struggle to fill their work days. Eventually, they'll quit and leave the owner wondering why their dreams of expanding or reducing their workload went so bad so fast. It doesn't have to be this way. Marketing and management strategies can smooth the transition for an associate and help ensure their success and the fulfillment of your goal. So let's look how the owner could have used these strategies to support success. Number 1, communicate your transition plan to the new associate so that they know what to expect and what is expected of them. Number 2, accelerate the promotion of the practice prior to the associate's arrival. A solid marketing plan needs to be in place with the goal of averaging at least 28 new patients a month just prior to bringing the associate on. Promotional activities must be ramped up to match the increased capacity requirement. Number 3, increase hygiene capacity and use hygiene appointments to build relationships between the associate and the existing patients. In our example scenario above, there is only one full-time hygienist for one full-time dentist. The owner has been there for 18 years, averaging 200 new patients each year. That's 3,600 patients of record at an average of 50 hygiene visits per week and 50 work weeks per year. One hygienist can only treat 2,500 visits. Since recare patients are seen twice per year, that's 1,250 patients of record. Where are the other 2,350 patients of record? How can they be serviced when there are only 4 days of hygiene per week? The overdue appointments that could be accommodated by opening up a second hygiene operatory and assigning an effective admin person on the overdue recare patients. And by scheduling the associate in the second hygiene room at first, you provide them with an opportunity to get to know the existing patients and eventually take on their operative care. As the associate becomes busier with operative care, delegate a hygienist to assume the additional work. Associate transitions do not have to be difficult, but they need to be carefully planned. To ensure success, communicate your integration plan to them up front so that they know what it will look like. Be realistic about the new patient volume needed to make the transition work, and make sure you have a marketing plan in place that supports the acquisition of the number of new patients needed. The back door of the practice must be closed as tight as possible, which means making sure patients don't fall through the cracks when it comes to booking for recare. Transition number 2, moving away from insurance participation. Many dentists get all emotional when you talk about insurance participation. They say things like, "They are forcing me to lower my standard of care. They are dictating treatment decisions. They make patients think everything is covered." To which our response would be, "No, they aren't. No, they aren't. No, they don't. They're not forcing you at gunpoint, are they? Your participation is a choice, just like choosing to run a television ad or spend money on a direct mail campaign. Insurance participation is one of many marketing options available to you. In this particular marketing medium, you get your practice listed in a printed directory and on an insurance website. This directory is designed to attract new patients to your practice, and just like any other form of advertising, you pay to be included. Of course, a dentist also has the ability to spend money to promote their practice to full-fee patients, and of course, the two do not have to be mutually exclusive. See insurance participation for what it is. Our best first advice to every dentist out there is to truly see insurance participation for what it is. Dental insurance participation is a very expensive referral service. There are many of you who are wondering what we mean when we say expensive. That would be natural. It's not like you pay money to participate. Well, on average, the cost of participating is going to be 19 to 22% or higher of your normal fees. In contrast, promoting your practice through other marketing methods should cost about 5% of your fees. So yeah, we think insurance participation is expensive. Sometimes insurance participation makes sense. To be very clear, we are not for or against insurance participation as a marketing medium. In some situations, in fact, a dentist might be crazy not to participate, at least initially, as they are trying to build a new practice. But we need to evaluate insurance participation for what it is, a potential marketing medium available to nearly every dentist nationwide. There are certainly situations where insurance participation would be beneficial to the business. For instance, let's say a dentist was just starting out with a brand new startup practice. They have 0 patient records. Maybe they have no marketing budget. In this situation, insurance participation is likely the only viable marketing medium because there are no upfront expenses required. But why do so many dental offices continue to rely on insurance participation as their only or primary marketing medium long after those lean startup years are over? Good question. We can only assume it's because they don't know that there's an alternative, or they are scared by the alternative. After all, it's a scary prospect to be faced with the possibility of losing all of the existing patients who are covered by insurance. But I know a dentist who transitioned out of insurance and went broke. Yeah, we know. And we know why. The number one reason insurance transitions fail is because the owner of the practice is not realistic about the time it will take to dig their practice out of the effects of participating. We have heard the following story so many times from so many dentists. Well, I went to a seminar, hired a consultant, and bought into the idea of having a fee-for-service practice, so I immediately went back to the practice and got out of every insurance contract. Now I am broke. Well, we're tired of hearing this story. Listen, we have no problem with aspiring to own a fee-for-service practice, none at all. In fact, we firmly believe that every dentist can have a fee-for-service practice. We do have a problem with someone telling you to go cold turkey. Doing so is pure, avoidable insanity. You don't have to go cold turkey when you transition from insurance participation to self-promotion. So why would you? Why would you take the risk? Why would you create the concern and uncertainty if you don't have to? If you don't get anything else out of this chapter, listen to this one piece of advice. Do not attempt to get out of all of your insurance plans at once. The right way to transition out of insurance participation. So you're ready to invest 5% of your earnings into other marketing options instead of writing off 19 to 22% for the referral service that insurance participation offers your practice. How do you do it? Well, let's take a look at the painful reality. Here is a typical insurance transition. Our example dental practice is producing around $1 million, writing off $200,000, and collecting $800,000. As you can see, the business is already spending $200,000 through insurance write-offs per year to attract patients. That's painful enough. But now the owner needs to find between $40,000 and $50,000 to start effectively promoting the practice to patients who care more about their mouth than a deductible. Ultimately, it will be worthwhile financially, but still a really tough thing to do. There are 4 key pieces of information dentists need to know before considering an insurance transition. They are, number 1, total revenues for the previous 12 months. Number 2, total number of active patients. Number 3, total number of active patients on each plan. Number 4, production by insurance plan. Figuring out the revenues for the past 12 months is easy. Just put the right date range in a production report and you are home free. You should also always know the number of active patients in your practice. Next, line up each plan you participate with and determine the number of active patients within each plan. This will give you a pecking order based on volume. Then line up the production from each insurance plan. You do this just to make sure that your pecking orders line up with each other in terms of the number of patients and each plan's revenues. The plan with the most active patients should also be the plan with the highest production. We will run a few numbers to show you how it works. Let's say that our hypothetical practice has $800,000 in revenue and 1,000 total active patients. This breaks down to 150 active patients from Delta, 125 active patients from MetLife, 80 active patients from Aetna, 50 active patients from Prudential. So the total of 405 active patients are insured through participating plans, while 595 active patients have not been referred through plans. Now let's line up the revenues. 128,000 collected from Delta, 101,000 collected from MetLife, 74,000 collected from Aetna, 39,000 collected from Prudential. See how the revenues pretty much line up with the patient numbers? This is typical. Now, taking these numbers into consideration, what are the prospects of making a complete insurance transition with this dental practice? As always, let's look at the numbers. Numbers never lie. In the example practice above, we have 405 active patients to replace with indemnity or fee-for-service patients. If you tried to do this all in 1 year, you would likely be disappointed. You need to be attracting about 35 additional high-quality new patients each month. Even in a very positive market area, attempting this kind of volume would be setting yourself up for failure. To figure out what's realistic, use this rule of thumb. Take the number of active patients currently enrolled with insurance plans in your dental practice and divide that number by 12, much like we just did to find out how many additional new patients we need to replace the participating patients. In this case, the result was 35. All you have to do now is add the word months to the end. In our sample practice, it will take 35 months to completely, comfortably, and with limited stress, wean the office from insurance participation. This means our short-term promotional goal is to attract about 10 to 14 additional high-quality new patients each month to start the replacement process. This is an attainable goal. This is a reasonable goal. This is a goal that can be exceeded, making the owner and the team more and more confident as the months pass. So, we've established that it's going to take 35 months to complete the transition. We need to keep the active patient number at 1,000 active patients. We need to add about 10 to 14 new fee-for-service patients each month to begin offsetting the participating patient base. We need to establish an annual marketing budget of $40,000 to $50,000. We now have the new patient acquisition part of our transition plan well in hand. So when do we start actually dropping out of the insurance plans? This is key. You start dropping plans after you have acquired the new fee-for-service patients. Look back at the insurance numbers again. You will notice that there are 50 active patients with Prudential. If, after 5 months, you have achieved your goal of 50 new fee-for-service patients, you will be in a position to drop Prudential. We have had client offices mark up the calendar in their business office with the designated day that they will finally call the insurance company to tell them that they no longer want to participate. It can be an incredibly motivating team objective to which everyone can contribute. Wouldn't it be great if you and your team were able to celebrate with each plan you eliminated? We bet the person in your office who deals with insurance inquiries will be stoked. Now you go through this process all over again for the remaining insurance plans your practice participates in. In our example, Aetna is the next target. Now you need 80 more fee-for-service patients. Every promotional activity, every new inquiry, every new patient booked becomes part of the effort, and every member of your team can be involved in the goal of attracting enough high-quality patients to be able to say goodbye to Aetna. We have seen insurance transitions bring entire dental teams together to attain a common goal. It can actually be fun. You've transitioned out of insurance participation. Now what? If your hard work and careful planning have allowed you to transition completely from insurance participation to a 100% fee-for-service patient roster, then the first thing you and your team should do is pop a few champagne corks. Then you can get down to the very rewarding business of using your marketing budget to grow a bigger practice and healthier revenues. Let's look at the numbers. If the transition completed 12 months ago, our hypothetical practice now has $1 million in revenues, 0 in write-offs, 1,000 active patients, 5% marketing budget. If you flash back to the pre-transition figures for this practice, you can immediately see the benefits. Had they not made this transition, they would have had no marketing budget and would have written off $600,000. Instead, our example practice ended up writing off $300,000 and had a marketing budget total of $150,000, $50,000 per year for 3 years. Now, 1 year since completing the transition, practice has 0 in insurance write-offs and a total marketing budget of $50,000. Is that a worthwhile transition? You bet. Now imagine the personal financial impact for the owner of our example practice. Let's say the owner practices another 15 years after completing the transition. If they earn an additional $150,000 each year for 15 years, that translates into $1.75 million. If you project the average investment return all the way out to retirement, you are easily looking at between $2.2 and $2.3 million in true impact. Remember, the additional $150,000 per year is the difference between the $200,000 per year they were writing off and the $50,000 per year they are now using to promote the practice. Do you see the financial impact? These are your decisions. You are the CEO of your dental practice. If you do choose insurance participation to kickstart your practice, that's fine. Just have a transition plan in place that keeps you from relying solely on insurance to promote your practice. If you're going to play the insurance game, play to win. Transition number 3, transitioning out of a niche. Some dentists are going to wonder why on earth we're showing them how to transition out of a niche. They're saying, show me how to transition into one. They may be trying to get into cosmetic dentistry or sedation dentistry or some other niche specialization that they're sure will raise their profile and increase their revenues. But a niche can be a trap. It can start limiting your practice in terms of the type of work you do and the numbers of patients you're able to attract. It can close in on you and put a chokehold on your business. Still want to be transitioned into one? Well, let's take a look at some common niche areas and talk about why it's not a good idea to promote just those niches. Probably the most common and overused niche is cosmetic dentistry. Over the past many years, the cosmetic dentistry niche has been grossly overplayed, and the value of the niche itself has deteriorated significantly. What general dentist do you know that isn't also a cosmetic dentist? Exactly. Cosmetic dentistry is no longer a niche in the perception of the average dental consumer. The perception in the eyes of the dental consumer is that most, if not all, dentists do cosmetic dentistry. Of course, not all cosmetic dentistry is the same. Different dentists perform very different types and calibers of work. You may very well be a dentist who offers superior cosmetic dental work. You may have attended and completed rigorous postgraduate studies. You may have received accolades from your peers for your cosmetic dental work. We completely understand. But the perception within the dental consumer is still that every dentist does cosmetic dentistry. From a marketing standpoint, if you spend a great deal of your marketing budget promoting cosmetic dentistry, in the mind of the consumer, you are promoting that you do exactly the same thing as everyone else. And of course, your state board would likely fine you if you tried to advertise that you were better than anyone else. So it really doesn't matter how great you are at cosmetic dentistry. You can't change public perception inexpensively. That's strike number 1 against you. Now add another reality. Over the past many years, dentists have accelerated the promotion of cosmetic procedures to the general public. They have been over-allocating their marketing budget to this one area. Your message is mixed in with an increasing number of others and becomes diluted over time. That's strike 2. Now add another reality. Not everyone wants, needs, or values cosmetic dentistry. The cosmetic full mouth rehab portion of the dental market is small, about 8% exactly. So you're relying on a tiny fraction of the total patient market to build your practice. Strike 3. You've already struck out, but here's another reality. Those cosmetic patients that you do see are wondering if you do regular dentistry. Yeah, amazing, isn't it? See how the consumer perception can shift 180 degrees and in totally the wrong direction? If you have been promoting your dental practice with a primary focus on cosmetic dentistry over the past few years, we guarantee many of your patients think all you do is cosmetic dentistry. This all adds up to a classic niche trap. Sedation dentistry is another one, and it's affecting dentists all over the U.S. A dentist completes a sedation course and starts advertising this niche, usually on the radio. At first, lots and lots of patients respond. This happens if no other dentist in the area is advertising the benefits of sedation dentistry in the same market. The response builds quickly, and the dentist is thrilled. The advertising is working. Patients are getting much-needed treatment done. Everything is perfect. Unfortunately, the effects on the dentist practice dwindle just as quickly as they initially grew. What happened? The exact same thing that happened to a lot of dentists who focus on cosmetic dentistry. Number 1, there is a limited market for the service. Number 2, it's impossible to differentiate or elevate yourself from other dentists offering the same service. Number 3, the public starts to think that you only do one thing. And suddenly the sedation dentist is trapped, just as surely as the cosmetic dentist. These niche traps are easy to fall into. The emotional pull is hard for a dentist to resist. Yes, it sure makes your practice sound pretty sexy, doesn't it? Are you drifting off into your very own dental nirvana daydream right now? Well, wake up. Profiting from niches while sidestepping the niche trap. So how can you stay out of the niche trap while still promoting specialty services in your practice? As usual, marketing plays a big role in helping you shape your practice in healthy, sustainable ways. First, never use any marketing medium to promote just one aspect of your practice. Sounds pretty simple, right? But what does it mean? It means if you promote your practice using, for example, direct mail, make sure your design and message is inclusive of your niche, but make sure it also includes all of the other reasons to choose you. If you promote your practice through print mediums, make sure you either rotate single topic ads or that your single ad design promotes your niche and all of the other reasons to choose you. If you promote your practice through mass media like radio, television, billboards, make sure you rotate your single topic ads within your allotted airtime. With billboards, change the message at 3 to 6 month intervals. Make sure your audience sees all of the reasons to choose you in all of the mediums you use. You cannot possibly niche trap yourself that way. You will promote your niche in a balanced way, both in terms of public exposure and in terms of budget allocation. Building healthy niches through internal promotion. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you need to focus on an aggressive external marketing campaign to find new patients for a desired niche. We have dentists tell us all the time, I want to do more implants. I want to do more cosmetics. I want to do more sleep apnea treatment. I want to do more aligners. I want to do more veneers. I want to do more fill in the blank. They insist they need to hammer the message home in their external promotions to let the public know that they offer this service. Here's the irony. Our clients, by not focusing on a niche in their marketing, end up doing tons of cosmetics, implants, aligners, and sleep apnea treatments. However, one thing we tell our clients to do is to focus their marketing efforts on educating their existing patients about all the services they offer. The fact is, the majority of your big cases come from within your existing patient base. What if we told you that the best place to market niche services was not on television, not on radio, not on a giant billboard next to a superhighway, but right in your own practice? The best time to reach a new patient with a message about your niche offerings is the moment they walk through your door for the first time. That is where the majority of big case dentistry is done. That is where the consumer value is built, during the initial consult and throughout the subsequent doctor-patient relationship. Some patients will get work done right away. Some patients will wait 1 year. Some patients will wait 5 years. But most of your patients will see the benefit of these services in time if you take the time to educate them about what's possible. Make no mistake, your promotion is responsible for getting interested people to inquire. Your job, once they walk through your front door, is to keep communicating the benefits of today's dentistry. If you do both well, you will end up having all of the big cases you can handle. We've talked in previous chapters about how little the average consumer knows about dentistry. By educating them consistently and at every opportunity about the benefits of a wide range of services, you can change that. Transition number 4, transitioning out of stagnation. No dentist wants to see their business grind to a halt. Anytime a practice hits a revenue plateau, dentists want to kickstart further growth. This makes perfect sense. First, you need to make sure you meet your expenses. Funny thing about expenses, they never seem to go down, do they? Then there's the entirely natural desire to see your business expand and become more profitable. All of you will reach what are called plateau points in your practice life cycle. Plateau points are times when your revenues stay fairly flat for a time period of 6 months or more. Some practices who have engaged our services initially presented flat revenues for 3, 5, or even more years. That's more like a habit than a plateau. So let's look at ways to transition out of a period of stagnation. The interesting thing is that revenue plateaus tend to follow a pattern. Taking a solo GP practice as an example, here are the most common revenue plateaus. Number 1, between $350,000 to $450,000. Number 2, between $650,000 to $750,000. Number 3, $1.2 million. Where do these revenue plateaus come from? Why is it so hard to renew consistent growth? The answer is, well, there is no single answer. That is a big part of the problem. It's very rare that a revenue plateau happens for just one reason. However, the number and/or quality of new patients is always one of the indicators. Increasing the number of new patients and/or quality of new patients will always drive production and revenues forward. Let's look at some of the potential reasons for a revenue plateau. Number 1, low volume and/or poor quality of new patients. Number 2, capacity restriction. Number 3, improper delegation. Number 4, inefficiency in scheduling. Number 5, limited clinical scope. Number 6, improper management of recare. Number 7, poor customer-patient service. Number 8, complacent or lazy owner. Let's take these one at a time. Number 1, low volume and/or poor quality of new patients. The number of patients you maintain and the quality of those patients will always be a contributing factor to a revenue plateau. That's why you need to maintain a constant awareness of the number of new patients that your dental practice attracts every month and of the average revenue each patient generates. Earlier in this book, we showed you how to calculate average revenue per active patient and how to calculate the average revenue per new patient by source. If you consistently track these month by month and year by year during the life cycle of your dental practice, you will never find yourself mired in a revenue plateau without prior warning. You will be able to predict an upcoming plateau by identifying a dip in either the volume or quality, or both, of new patients. Then, by implementing targeted promotional activities, you'll be able to minimize the impact and length of the forthcoming plateau. Yes, it is possible for a dentist to predict and take control of the future. It just takes ongoing monitoring and proactive marketing. Number 2, capacity restriction. Capacity restriction can also contribute to a revenue plateau. Fortunately, it's an issue that's relatively easy to identify. You have just 3 capacities in your practice: time, hours of operation; space, number of operatories; and providers, dentists and hygienists. That's it. Revenue plateaus can be triggered when a practice has reached its potential within 1, 2, or 3 capacities. When this happens, getting out of the plateau requires the expansion of 1 or more of these capacities. You'll need to extend your hours of operation, add an operatory, and/or hire more staff. There can be other contributing factors that can cause a capacity restriction. Inefficient scheduling can eat up your office hours. Delegating clinical duties improperly can max out your staffing capacity. An over-reliance on insurance participation can reduce the profitability of your practice. If 80% of your business comes from insurance, no matter how many hours you work, no matter how efficiently you schedule, and no matter how many more staff members you take on, you're just not going to be able to grow your revenues. As you go through your dental career, make sure you keep a keen eye on the capacities of your dental practice. Once you think you are close to maximizing your capacities, look at all of your efficiencies and tighten them up. As you get close to maximizing your capacities again, and you see nothing you can tighten up, congratulations, it's time to expand. Number 3, improper delegation. Improper delegation of clinical duties can definitely cause a revenue plateau. The most common example of improper delegation of clinical duties has to do primarily with your dental assistant. Dental assistants, if scheduled properly, can cut the dentist's chair time in half, or by as much as 2/3. But time and time again, we see dentists who fail to delegate tasks to dental assistants. Find out what your state regulations allow and work toward expanding the role of your dental assistants to the maximum they're capable of doing. Number 4, inefficiencies in scheduling. Inefficiencies in scheduling will almost always produce a revenue plateau. If you combine this with improper delegation, it can become a predictable revenue killer. We want to ask you a question. How come one dentist will schedule 20 minutes of their time for a crown prep, and the dentist across the street will block out 1 hour for a crown prep? Is there a reason one dentist takes 3 times as much time for the same procedure? Dental assistants can legally handle, in most states, 40 minutes of that 1-hour appointment. Why do many of you reserve the whole 60 minutes in your schedule? We assume you work out of at least 2 operatories during the day. Efficient scheduling cannot only drive production, but it can also make each day more enjoyable. So if you start to hit a plateau in your practice, take a look at your delegation and your scheduling. Be honest with yourself about your capabilities and work with your team to tighten things up. Number 5, limited clinical scope. Having a limited clinical scope can also create a revenue plateau. We have had clients that didn't want to see kids, didn't want to do any endo, even the easy stuff, hated the thought of learning ortho because their dental school instructors told them to refer it all out, and shipped out any patient with a pocket deeper than 4 millimeters to the periodontist. Okay, what's wrong with this picture? Certainly, there's a financial argument to be made that a practice like this is acquiring the patient, but then dispensing the revenue to outside specialists. That's definitely going to affect revenue levels. But beyond that, what about the inconvenience to the patient? Let's pretend you're treating a family of 4. Say the husband has a toothache and comes in for emergency treatment, endo. The wife has 3 or 4 sites with 5 millimeter pockets, and one of the kids needs braces. How would you feel if you were the mother of this family? How many dental relationships does she have to manage and juggle just to come to this general dental office? She will have a general dentist, an endodontist, her periodontist, and a pedodontist for the kids, and the orthodontist for the child that needs braces. That means she will have 5 doctors, at least 5 assistants, at least 1 hygienist, 5 different locations, 5 different office hours, and 5 different people at the front desk that she has to deal with. Is this a good thing for the consumer? Our point here is that a limited scope does more harm than just farming out the production dollars to the specialists. It also degrades the perception of service among your patient base. If your service level is low, real or perceived, your organic growth, patient referrals, will be low. Number 6, improper management of recare. Improper management of the recare system is the most common cause for revenue plateaus in general offices. If you experience a revenue plateau and your practice has been in existence longer than 5 years, we would look here first. We showed you how to calculate the number of overdue recare appointments in Chapter 11. But here's a quick refresher. Number 1, take the number of new patients in the previous 12 months. Number 2, run an overdue recare list for the same previous 12-month period. And number 3, compare the numbers. If you are currently in a revenue plateau, the number of new patients is going to be equal to or lower than the number of existing patients on the overdue recare list. If overdue recare is a problem in your practice, you gotta fix it. The back door of your dental practice is just as important as the front door. Assign a team member to reorganize the recare system and get them specific training so that they can take full responsibility for this important business system. Then stay on top of the results of their work and do this for the rest of your career, not just for a month or 2. Number 7, poor customer-patient service. Poor customer-patient service is less likely to be a contributor to a revenue plateau, but it is certainly worth mentioning here. Almost all dentists strive to provide great service to their patients and to hire team members who share their passion for service excellence. Our years of working with dentists, we have only rarely come across a dentist that didn't care about patient service. However, occasionally the behavior of the supporting team causes problems. More often, the problem can be traced to the person answering the phone when a new patient calls. We can't tell you how many times we have just looked at each other in amazement after listening to the interaction between a new inquiry and the person at the front desk. We have seen dental practices plateau just because they put someone with poor phone skills on the front desk. Those phone calls are the all-important first point of contact. It could be the start of a long and rewarding relationship with a new patient, or it could end up a total dead end. So make sure your office staff understand that the phone lines are your practice's lifelines. The second most common customer service leak occurs when you have a heavy-handed hygienist on staff. Typically, patients won't say anything directly to the hygienist themselves, and typically, patients won't complain to the doctor. They might say something to the person at the front desk when making their next appointment, but it is rare. Most often, they'll just slink off and never show up again. Since the majority of dental offices pre-appoint, and the average recare cycle is 6 months, you won't even know you have a problem until it's too late. It takes an average of 9 to 12 months to uncover this type of problem. To address potential issues before they start affecting your revenues, we recommend monitoring the performance of your hygienist using anonymous patient surveys. Several dental technology companies offer electronic surveys as part of their service offerings, so it's easy to survey your patients regularly. Number 8, complacent, lazy owner. Complacent, lazy, or comfortable dental practice owners are more common than you might think, and we can't think of a faster way to stagnate the revenues of a practice than to have an unmotivated owner at the helm. Hey, if you like where you are in life, that's fine. After all, that's the goal. But if you hit a revenue plateau and are too complacent, lazy, or comfortable to do anything about it, well, that's probably why you hit the plateau to begin with. Without hard work and focus, your practice is naturally going to slow to a halt. Now, we don't have a magic formula for making an owner more energetic or more driven. That's not our expertise. But we can definitely tell you that these characteristics contribute to a revenue plateau in many dental practices. Revenue plateaus happen for any number of reasons and any combination of reasons. Causes are complex, and that's why the solutions are not always simple. We've shown you ways to correct a revenue plateau should you find yourself mired in one. But we've also shown you the importance of anticipating and avoiding plateaus before they happen by ensuring adequate new patient intake, working to retain existing patients, and ensuring patients are encouraged to book for regular recare. Recap. What we've learned in this chapter. Change is a natural part of a growing and evolving practice. However, it can also throw you into turmoil if you're not prepared for it. We have seen many practices flounder because they weren't able to weather a transitional period successfully. And the really sad part is there's no reason for change to adversely affect your business if you are prepared for it. In this very important chapter, we've shown you how smart marketing and management strategies can help smooth some of the most common practice transitions and ensure that when you emerge from a period of transition, you're where you want to be. Throughout your years of practice, you may find yourself wanting to implement change at various points. You may want to expand your practice or scale back your workload by hiring an associate. You may decide you want to improve your profit margins by moving away from a reliance on insurance. You may want to reposition your business as a general practice instead of being pigeonholed by a specific niche offering. Or you may want to find a way to push beyond a revenue plateau and get to the next level. The marketing strategies we outlined in this chapter, along with the management insights provided, will help you anticipate and troubleshoot potential issues and make the most of the opportunities that these practice transitions offer.